Texas has passed their sweeping, in my view, draconian limitations on abortion rights in Texas. Now, this follows weeks of protest, the epic filibuster of Wendy Davis, attempts to stop this from being passed until Texas, the legislature goes into recess. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And as we suspected after Wendy Davis's filibuster, the special session of the Texas legislature was able to get these passed. Now, in case you haven't been following this very closely, here are some details on what these limitations would do. House Bill 2 would require doctors to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals, allow abortions only in surgical centers, limit where and when women may take abortion-inducing pills, and ban abortions after 20 weeks. Only 5 out of 42 existing abortion clinics meet the requirements to be a surgical center, and clinic owners say they can't afford to upgrade or relocate. Now, of course, the people pushing for this bill in Texas and similar bills in other states, including North Carolina, Ohio, I believe Iowa, a couple of other states right now, they're saying that this is about safety and they want to make sure that the women are safe. So, of course, they have to be at a place that can perform surgeries. Although, of course, as the opposition points out, giving birth is more dangerous than taking these abortion-inducing pills and things like that, and yet they don't require those sorts of same surgical procedure. I guess the ability of the place to perform those surgeries as they do in the case of these abortion procedures. And so, of course, we understand what's really going on. They just want to limit it. They figured out if we make this happen, we're going to cut down 90% of the abortion clinics in Texas. And so after this, when Rick Perry inevitably signs it, which should happen very soon, if he doesn't gallivant off to Israel, which we'll get to, it's going to be much harder in Texas to get an abortion. Now, you will still legally be able to, just not after 20 weeks, and you might have to drive 3, 5, 10 hours across the state, depending on where you live. Because as we said, many of these clinics that do already exist are going to have to shut down. So those are the details. There's a couple of implications of this that I want to talk about. One, sort of possibly the silver lining around this, many people are saying that this might be the issue that will finally flip Texas. Now, it might not happen tomorrow or next year, but that Texas, the Republicans have simply overreached in assuming that, look, these women in our state aren't going to fight back. You know, many of them believe our bullshit, you know, the Republican women in Texas, and we can just manhandle them. We can do whatever we want, just like in states around the country. But the problem is that this isn't Mississippi. This isn't even North Carolina in a lot of ways. Like, Texas is not as deep red as they might want to believe that it is. And every year that becomes even more true. And so hopefully women will fight back against this. I mean, we've seen huge protests and a lot of interest from around the country on this issue. So hopefully that will be a silver lining. And the second point that I want to say about this is something I was talking with Lucas earlier, is why all of a sudden are we seeing so many anti-abortion bills brought up? And I think that it's basically because we're in sort of the doldrums between the last presidential election. We're going to be gearing up for the midterm elections in something like 6 months, and people want time off. Not the Republican legislators, just regular people. And so I think the reason that these bills are being pushed for is they're hoping that people aren't paying attention. I don't think that that was the case here. I mean, the fact that they had a live stream of the Texas legislature's debate over the bill and 130,000 simultaneous logins, I think that that showed that people do care. But I think that that's why they're doing it. And I'm hoping that in the long run, these sorts of bills get shut down. And the ones that do get passed now, in, 5 years, 10 years, when the country inevitably moves in a more progressive direction on this, and the people who are so fervently anti-choice now begin to die out, we can start to roll back some of this legislation. But to do that, there are going to have to be some changes, because for whatever reason, the way it shakes down right now, the women that are against abortion simply seem to care more or vote more based on the issue than the women who want to protect abortion rights. And that is even stronger the case, or even more the case when it comes to the men. I believe that there are a lot of men that are pro-choice, but they don't seem to vote based on it, whereas the Republican men who are pro-life will organize their entire careers, their entire political lives around it. And that needs to change if we're going to have some of these laws rolled back. So, bad day in Texas, unfortunate day for Texas women, but let this light a fire under your ass to get rid of Rick Perry, to get rid of these Republican legislators, so that the next time the Texas legislature meets, in 5 years or so, or whatever, we can roll these back and get some reasonable, rational, pro-choice legislation in Texas.